Brilliant. Well, thank you all for joining. And today we thought we'd do a practice on gratitude, given that it was, particularly for me anyway, a very sunny weekend here where I am, and the world's looking very lovely. So maybe an opportunity just to step back and just be grateful for some of the things that are going on in our lives, whatever else is going on as well. But just before we do so, maybe we could just do a landing practice. So I invite you all just to sort of settle into a comfortable position, ideally with your back sort of reasonably straight, not uncomfortably straight, but just reasonably straight so that you can stay alert. And you may want to close your eyes or just lower your gaze, whatever's comfortable to you. And perhaps put your hands in your lap or on top of your legs and just take a few deep breaths just to settle into the moment. If you've had a particularly busy morning, you're very welcome just to give a kind of stretch to stretch out some of that rushing around, but then just settle back into a nice comfortable position and maybe allow your breathing just to fall into its natural rhythm. So not trying to control it in any way, just allowing it to arise and pass in its natural rhythm. And really just following each of those breaths and noticing how each one is different. It may be that today you're quite short of breath, or you may have long, deep breaths, and either is exactly fine. Just noticing whatever's arising for you right now. And seeing if you can notice where it's easiest for you to have your attention on the breath. So in the tip of your nose, where the breath first enters, or maybe your throat, or maybe just the rise and fall of your chest with each breath. And we're just allowing this focus, this awareness of the breath arising and passing, just to be our anchor to the present moment, to what's actually happening right here, right now. We're not thinking about the future or reminiscing about the past. We're not wishing the present was any different from what it is. Just being present and allowing it to be as it is. Whether that's busy or stressed, calm or peaceful, just allowing it to be whatever it is today. With a kind of curious and non-judgmental attitude of interest. And if at any point we notice that we've got pulled away into thoughts, just giving a little inner smile and just bringing our attention gently back to the anchor without any kind of judgment. You may want to remember that this moment of realizing and returning to the here and now, this waking up out of thoughts, this is the practice, to just keep coming back to the present and allowing it to be as it is. And if it's one of those busy Mondays where there's really quite a lot of thoughts going on, which is very natural, it happens to all of us as human beings, just maybe seeing if you can name the groups of thoughts that are coming up as you give the inner smile in return. This can sometimes be helpful. So maybe rather than being aware of individual thoughts, just thinking, well, planning mind, and thank you, but right now I'm going to choose to put my attention on the breath. And again. And as we settle deeper into this moment, just seeing if we can notice the pauses between the breath as well as each individual breath. Noticing how the breath arises and then passes. And there's that little pregnant pause before the next breath arises. Just watching that circle, being aware of it for a few moments. Just noticing the stillness of that pause before the movement of the breath, and then back into the stillness of that pause. Perhaps noticing how, just as the breath arises out of that pause, and then passes. So maybe you can see individual thoughts just arising. And then, as we stay aware of the breath, we can be aware of that thought, but we can just watch it arise and pass in its own time as we continue to keep our focus on the breath. Maybe hearing some sounds also, just arise and pass out of the stillness of that pause, from which the breath arises and also passes. And now, as we come to the end of the landing practice, just seeing if those words make any thoughts arise. As the mind suddenly has an impetus and starts doing its thing and producing thoughts. Seeing if we can just observe that and just give a smile and return for 3 more breaths before we come back together. And then in your own time, maybe gently open your eyes, have a stretch or move about, maybe have a sip of water. And just while you do, I thought I'd just read this couple of quotes I quite like. It says in the Tao, written 2,000 years ago, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you." And similarly, 2,000 years ago, the Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient." The greatest blessings of mankind are within us and within our reach. So the wise person is content with their lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for more or for what they do not have. So I thought this may be a bit challenging for us in today's society, which is probably a lot more materialistic and a lot more things are available than there were 2,000 years ago. But maybe it's worth just spending a little bit of time just settling on some of the things that we do have and actually how lucky we are to have those. This isn't to say that we shouldn't work for more or shouldn't want more and shouldn't give more, but maybe just to soften any kind of need for more and soften any sense of needing more in order to be something that actually we may already be. So I invite you just to settle back into a comfortable position. And again, maybe just close your eyes or gently lower your gaze. And we'll start by just centering back on that breath. Just watching it arise and pass. And maybe now just widening our focus slightly to encompass our body. So seeing if we can be aware how with each in-breath, that's drawing oxygen in, feeding our whole body, head to toe. And each out-breath is releasing the carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere before our next in-breath. Just seeing if we can feel our whole body breathing. And as we sense our whole body breathing, can we be aware of the acts of kindness as it occurred to us? And are we grateful for the magical process that's actually underway? Because just as we're breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide, the whole natural world around us is breathing in that carbon dioxide, grateful to us for what we've provided, and is emitting oxygen back, for which we're grateful. All the trees and the plants and the bushes. That's this magical process that's underway every second of the day, whether we are aware of it or not. And just sensing that wider connection to life around us, and any sense of gratitude that arises. And as we now bring our focus back to our whole body breathing, just listening with our ears at the same time, just sensing our body, just sensing if there are any sounds going on. Maybe traffic passing, or people calling, or bird song. Maybe warm, familiar sounds, or totally unusual sounds. And can we sense how these accompany us through life? I have a particularly chirpy little bird right outside the window right now. He's just singing away, just enlivening this particular moment. What sounds are there around you? People coming and going. Wildlife doing its thing. How lucky we are that we're surrounded by activity and life. Imagine if there was just a sterile silence. But there isn't. There's a supportive network all around us the whole time. And if we bring our focus back slightly to our whole body breathing, can we be aware of that whole body and all it does for us? It allows us to move, to express kindness, to enjoy pleasure, to see beautiful skies and sunsets, art, music, play sports, do work, achieve things. It's tirelessly and always there for us. And maybe just sense how fortunate we are to have this body. Most of the time, we're barely even conscious of all the things that are going on within it. The breaths arising, any minor injuries just naturally healing, our hair growing, our skin turning, all these amazing things that just happen with this body that it gives to us. And just sensing those and being grateful to them. How fortunate we are to have this body. My mindfulness teacher often talks about a lady who was injured severely in a car accident, paralyzed from the neck down. And they'd often ask her in the hospice how she could be so positive. Her response was always, I may not be able to do what I used to do, but I can still feel the air, still feel that air and the wind across my face and my hair. In the summer, when there's a cool breeze through the window, I can sense all that brings and all that breeze sees as it passes around the world. I'm in touch with it. And for us who have more use of our body, can we get a sense of that level of gratitude and be grateful for what we have? And as we come back to an awareness of our body breathing, can we widen to get a sense of appreciation for those around us, the warmth we're shown by our family, our friends, our loved ones, and maybe even just the people in the street who walk past and smile or acknowledge us. The love that those groups of people feel for us. And also our ability, because of them, to express our love to them. our place amidst this extraordinary, unusual, unexpected world. And all the billions of things that have to happen that other people do in order to allow us to live our lives. From the moment we wake up, on sheets that somebody has made, drink tea or coffee that somebody's picked, turn on lights that someone has arranged to power. Drive to work in a car that someone's driven. On roads where the mere act of driving is a constant act of cooperation between people. And be at work offering all of the things that we've learned because somebody has taught us. Collaborating with colleagues, or seeking new ideas and new opportunities. Being inspired to try new things that we may never have tried because we've heard that somebody somewhere did them. And taking comfort with the comments of support and encouragement from those around us, both those we know and maybe some of those we don't know who also encourage us. Thinking to our parents, whether we had an easy relationship or a difficult one. Thinking of all the acts of kindness, all of the work they put into supporting us and allowing us to grow up, to become who we are now. Perhaps being in a condition that allows us to pay back some of that, to express our gratitude back to them, to remember them fondly, however they were, whether easy or difficult, all the warm memories of the good times. And if thoughts are arising in our head in response to these words, perhaps widening our gratitude to this funny thing called our mind, with all its crazy ideas, but its brilliant ideas, its drive to achieve things, its love it wants to express, the way that it will enable us to achieve things that we may never have dreamt of years ago. There's often times in mindfulness practice where we choose not to listen to the mind and instead just to focus on the breath, to be in the here and now. But we should also be aware of the power of this tool, this mind that produces thoughts, our ability to brainstorm, to dream, to inspire and be inspired. We don't have to follow the mind the whole time to appreciate it. It's like we don't have to run the whole time to appreciate our legs. And as we center back on our whole body breathing, it's maybe feeling to our hearts, perhaps imagining each in-breath lead directly to our heart, and that cycle of arising of breath and passing of breath. And just feeling with our hearts that sense of appreciation for those on a similar path around us, those who support us in something we believe in, who encourage us, who inspire us. And appreciating all of the people throughout history who've taught these teachings and passed on these messages, that life is both pleasant and unpleasant, satisfactory and unsatisfactory. There is a way to be with that, in which we can be at peace, in which we can find a calm and a contented place through the ups and downs of life. And tracing this all the way back to Buddha 2,500 years ago and even beyond him. He often said, I'm not teaching anything new, I'm just teaching what I've been taught. Going right back into history, this huge group of people all around the world who wish for all beings to be free from suffering and to find the inherent peace and contentment that is our birthright. Sensing into that for a few moments. You may not have the best car in the world, the best house in the world, best looks in the world, the best job in the world, the quietest pets in the world. If we look at things of what we don't have, we can always, with our imaginative minds, find things. But can we also just spend some time thinking of all the things we do have? All the things that we can be grateful for, that are there, often all the time, just unnoticed. And as we come towards the end of this practice, just as we touched base earlier with this amazing body that does so much for us without really even being asked, can we just center back on ourselves and our feeling, just feeling into that appreciation of ourselves and the fact that we are what we are. We are okay. We are fine. We are kind. We're loving. And we're lovable. We make people laugh. We make people cry. That's what it is to be human. We're here. Just us. Completely fine, just as we are. And your own time, absolutely no hurry. Just rejoining back together. Opening your eyes when you feel ready. And just while you do so, I just like to read this poem I came across, which I rather liked. It's by a poet called Dana Folds. Do not let the day slip through your fingers, but live it fully now. This breath, this moment, catapulting you into full awareness. Time is precious, minutes disappearing like water into sand, unless you choose to pay attention. Since you do not know the number of your days, treat each as if it is your last. Be that compassionate with yourselves, that open and loving to others, that determined to give what is yours to give, and to let in the energy and wonder of this world. Experience everything, writing, relating, eating, doing all the little necessary tasks of life as if for the first time, pushing nothing aside as unimportant. You've received these reminders many times before. This time, take them into your soul. For if you choose to live in this way, you will be rich beyond measure, grateful beyond words, and the day of your death will arrive with no regrets. Okay, so if I may, I'll just stop recording and then we'll go into a bit of a group discussion.